Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning and a very warm welcome on behalf of SAPI, the Think Factory. This is Sangeeta Goel in here to navigate you through today's webinar on AI as a force multiplier in defense. Well, AI or artificial intelligence, which till few years back used to be a thing of dystopian science fictions or fantasy movies, it has come to be a critical part of our lives. With each passing year, this super transformative and revolutionary technology is growing in its adoption, evolution, and capabilities, promising to help us in countless ways in almost all realms of our lives. So, be it to boost innovation, to fight discrimination, or manage the health of our planet. We all saw the unbelievable pace at which COVID vaccines were developed last year, thanks to AI. AI is now around everywhere. Often we do not even notice it. In our day-to-day lives, Siri and Alexa can make us laugh by cracking a joke. Our digital twins or doppelgangers can spookily swap us and sit for us in a Zoom webinar like today's. According to a renowned futurist, Ray Kurzweil, computers will have the same level of intelligence as humans by 2029. Very close. Perhaps I'll not be there for exaggerating if I say we are at the inflection point of this planet's history caused by AI-led technological revolution, which no country, no society, no business, no entity, no human can afford to ignore. You ignore, and bet me, you lag behind. No wonder everybody today seems to be interested in AI. However, the problem is that there are a lot of misconceptions and myths and opacity surrounding the domain. On the one hand of this spectrum are the cynics who call AI a job snatcher or a monster or a terminator in making. There are others who call it next to God. However, in between there are multitudes of people and organizations like us who want clarity, direction, and expert advice when it comes to application of AI in their world life or work life. It is with this in backdrop that SAPI has come up with a series of webinars on demystifying AI. Well, as you know, that SAPI aims to bring together academia, industry, and active citizens to produce actionable knowledge. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is with the same intent that we have boarded today a luminary of domain experts with huge hands-on experience on the subject. Please join me in welcoming our chief guest, Padmashri Professor Bimal Roy, Chairman National Statistical Commission and a renowned encryption expert. Joining him is Colonel Samrendra Mohan Kumar, again a renowned AI expert and co-founder and MD of Midcat Advisory Services for his keynote address. I also welcome other esteemed speakers, including two CEOs of successful AI startups, Mr. Alok Tiwari and Mr. Sarang Nerkar. Last not least, we acknowledge very graceful presence of all other dignitaries and very special audience comprising of bureaucrats, researchers, professors, bureaucrats, and friends from forces. Ladies and gentlemen, before I hand in to the first speaker, Mr. Pradeep Gupta, the founder of SAPI, please permit me give a little background to him. Mr. Gupta, he is the founder of SAPI, an ardent AI lover. He is a former bureaucrat who has worked in many capacities with many dignitaries. He brings with him huge experience in defense production and border management. Over to you, Mr. Gupta, for your introductory address.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Good morning, everybody, especially our esteemed chief guest, Prof Bimal Roy, who had been mentor of the SAPI, Colonel Sam, who has very kindly consented to be the keynote speaker and share his perspective of AI in defense, distinguished bureaucrat Mr. Bimal Julka and other bureaucrats, past and present, distinguished veterans, armed forces officers, members of the industry, academia, media, students, and researchers, and distinguished participants from India and abroad. I will make a brief presentation. Are you able to see the presentation?
It's visible, sir.
Yes, yeah. Yes. If we trace the history of AI, it was there since the computer was conceptualized some 70, 80, 90 years ago. Though it could not take the present form then because of the maturity of the hardware and the computing techniques which happened over the years, and the more and more power is being put in that small chip. And better computing technique is the miracle of the human mind that has come up. So simplistically, if we see AI is a simulation of human intelligence, and if you see how our mind develops, we learn as we go based on our experience. Similarly, the AI also learns through experience on the data through with some predefined rules. And experiencing data is basically training on data. So AI augments human, not competes with human. This we must know, and this is what the misconception we would like to clarify. It is not possible to replace the human brain with the present set of technologies available. If you see that data is the fuel for AI and central to any AI application, and if there is no data, the AI is not there or it cannot function. So the ability of AI to process large and complex, large volume and complex data very objectively, precisely, and in a very, very swift manner or fast manner makes it a force multiplier. That's why we call it augmenting human. But one point of caution that if data is imperfect, your decisions or your output of the AI is also imperfect. So it follows the principle garbage in, garbage out. So we see a flood of AI applications happening, which is possible because AI tools are available in public domain. Besides, the deployment is also happening on cloud, which is very cheap or at no cost, literally. So this is the issue where there is large-scale proliferation of AI happening. However, our mention of the AI will not be complete till I look at the entire spectrum of new age technologies, that is 5G, VR, AR, etc., etc. And all these things function in conjunction. Somewhere all the technologies are used, somewhere some partial technologies are used. So not only this, in the coming decade, in this present decade, in the end, or maybe early next decade, we'll see more technologies coming up. Like it is predicted that 6G will come by 2028, and quantum computing is already taking shape. Quantum computing, like I have told that AI is a force multiplier. Quantum computing is force multiplier for AI. You just can imagine what kind of power we'll have encapsulated in this small chip and the computing power. So you can just imagine that how fast things will process. We'll have improved, we'll see a tremendous improvement in communication networks, and thus almost it cannot be zero latency, but then with very, very less time and very, very improved latency will be seen. Like presently we have Internet of Everything, we'll be shortly seeing interactive Internet of Everything, IEEE. So we'll see a lot of things happening. And one more thing I would like to highlight, that the Moore's law on which we were till now predicting the evolution of the electronics chips, etc., will be shortly outdated. It seems so, the way the things are progressing. That 2 years time period which is given in the Moore's law will be compressed to almost nothing. So this is the path we foresee of the AI and the new age technologies happening. And all these new age technologies, they reach us through the IoT devices, and these go to far and wide every domain they are covering. And data is, of course, the key driver to all these technologies. And there is an underlay of hardware, overlay of network, software, all these things make the complete set of these technologies. One thing I would like to mention, that all these things will happen, the applicability of these things, the newest technologies will happen when the new age technologists put in their expertise and the domain experts, because ultimately it is going to impinge or impact the domains, say medical field. a doctor or medical researcher knows very well about the human body. The new age technologists may not know. So he may prepare a sensor which will be sent in the body, and the pictures, etc., are taken and data transmitted outside. This data is then jointly processed by the medical researcher and the new age technologist, and then analysis is done that what type of ailment or what treatment is to be given. So this is where things are happening, and for any impactful application, it is very important that the synergy happens. And one more thing I would like to point out is that there has to be disruptive thinking. The old pattern of thinking will not be giving us such drastic improvements or changes. Otherwise, it will be very, very slow, or it may not happen also. So disruptive thinking or out of box thinking is very important. In my last webinar at the launch, I had mentioned about the Bell helicopter, how they were able to squeeze the time to conceptualize, design a helicopter from 5-6 years to almost 2 years, and a lot of intelligent and smart devices systems you will see. So in this direction, the SAPI has endeavored to democratize the new age technologies, and for that we have initiated this webinar series. So there is better appreciation of these, and maximize the benefit of AI and the new age technologies. We'll be organizing talks and webinars, and talks will be, we realize that not only limiting to these fields of border management or defense, we have to take it to jurisprudence, health, fintech, etc. Because cross application of knowledge is very, very important for this to get the maximum out of these technologies. We participate in other AI events, and we do it in Swiss Cognitive AI Initiative, we do in SIPRI, Stockholm Peace Research Institute. They have also the AI initiative. We participate in that, and we are publishing article blogs. We have a problem and solution feature wherein we'll be shortly hosting problems and solutions. We have got a lot of feedback. And SAPI will always stand for ethical and responsible AI. This is very important because if we are not going in the proper direction, like if you see ethical, we'll be pitching for some algorithm which will not promote racial discrimination or sort of gender bias. Then there are SIPRI, we are participating in discussion that they have coming up with the regulation. There should be some regulation that about the autonomous weapons. So all these things, because it violates the humanitarian laws. So the algorithms have to be socially beneficial and avoid unfair biases. This is our broad outlook on that. We at SAPI believe very firmly that leveraging new age technology will make us telescope certain stages of development which we have not passed through. So that's it is a very good opportunity for India to leapfrog technological stages of development, which we have not embraced, and we can, at least in isolated areas or in some island knowledge areas, we'll be competing with the best of the nations in the world, and we must do it. Then one thing more I will caution that we should try as far as possible in-house deployment of AI solutions on our own machines rather than on cloud, because there are constraints, and of course there are vulnerabilities too. In all developed countries, we see that critical AI algorithms are deployed on their own machine. They put their own data on it. Last but least, I'll just mention that India has enormous data. This is a new discovery because data is the new gold, and government is having the largest share of the data, whatever the complete country has. So we must make prudent use of this data in the best interest of the country. In the last, I would only sum up like this, that we have the data, that is the fuel, we have the fuel, we have the capability to make the engine, that is AI algorithm. So what's stopping us? Let's start immediately and start throwing. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for decoding AI and setting the tone and tenor for today's presentations. You emphasized on ethical and responsible AI. Yes, AI could have a very dark side for sure, and we need to preempt that.